Leah, I'm thinking maybe we should start, if you'd like to.
Sure. Yeah, happy to.
Okay.
Okay, so good evening and welcome everyone to this education session presented by the Regional Autism Centers and Chapters of Autism Nova Scotia. We are very pleased to have you take part in this event with us this evening. And my name is Leah Poirier. I will be your moderator for this evening. And tonight's session, as you will see, will include a PowerPoint. And I encourage anyone who has questions to put those in our Q&A box at the bottom of your screen or the top, depending on if you're a tablet or a PC user. And we will be sure to answer those for you and be sure to share them also with the group by the end of this evening's session. So if you have, if you know of someone who would like to see this presentation as well, I will let you know that we plan to put this on our YouTube channel. And so you can go back to watch it. We'll be sharing the PowerPoint slides on our Eventbrite page. And we also have some other resources that we're hoping to have in development that will support ongoing learning after this evening. So as you will know, the topic for tonight is transitions to adulthood for autistic individuals. And this topic was selected based on feedback from needs assessment surveys that our chapters did, but then also just general inquiries that we received as chapter coordinators throughout time. And so we know that this is a topic that we often get asked questions about, and we thought it would be a really good time to offer some information, give people some tips for planning, along with raising awareness about various options and opportunities that exist for those who are on the autism spectrum. And we also know that because autism is a spectrum, the journey will look a little different for everyone as they transition to adulthood. And so I invite you to take the information that you need, and hopefully it builds better awareness and a better path for you to move forward. So I am really, really excited to introduce the two presenters for this evening, who are two of my colleagues within Autism Nova Scotia. First presenter is Anna Brewer. Anna is the Autism Nova Scotia Respite Program Coordinator and the SIBS Connect Facilitator in the Central Region. She provides support to families seeking respite solutions. And she supports advocacy needs, supports generally individuals, professionals, and families with autism. She has a keen interest in the welfare of others and a strong desire to help and aid people to basically seek a better quality of life. Originally from Newfoundland, Anna has a background in residential care and child and youth care, and she's worked directly with individuals with many diverse needs. And she is a mom of 4, and she has a daughter who's on the spectrum. In Anna's spare time, she actually likes to do gardening and be outside. So thank you, Anna, for presenting tonight. And my second colleague, who I'm pleased to introduce, is Rachel Whynot. Rachel is the Autism Support Coordinator and Person-Directed Planning Facilitator for the South Shore chapter of Autism Nova Scotia. She provides support services and coordinates programming for individuals with autism and their families in both Lunenburg and Queens County. And as the person-directed planning facilitator, she supports adults with varying abilities in developing their own person-directed plans. And you'll hear a bit of that woven through our presentation tonight. And Rachel is actually a certified recreation therapist before she came to Autism Nova Scotia, and she's always been a strong advocate and supportive sibling. And in her spare time, you can find Rachel near or on the water. So take it away, ladies. We're really looking forward to your presentation tonight.
we go. Just had to unmute myself. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Leah, for the introduction. My name is Rachel, and on behalf of Autism Nova Scotia, we thank you all for being here tonight. We know that folks are here tonight representing themselves, as well as parents, family members, teachers, and other supporters. So no matter who you are, we're all here for the same reason, and that's to talk about adulthood. And more specifically, the options and opportunities, as well as supports and services that are there for autistic people throughout their transition to adulthood. And also, we're going to start to think about the possible and positive ways to think about the future. So just a timeline for our presentation tonight. We should be taking around an hour for Anne and I to go through our slides and have a little conversation. And that's going to be followed by a 30-minute question period. So throughout our presentation, if anything comes up, we encourage you to pop a note in the question and answer function, and they'll be answered at the end of the presentation. All of our slides we are putting in a PDF, and we'll send to you afterwards. So if you're a note taker, take your notes. But if you are just taking them to have copies of them, we'll send them out to you, as well with alongside some other resources that you'll see throughout the presentation. So transitions in general. Transitions happen everywhere. You see them in seasons, moving locations across the lifespan, like from school transitions from elementary to junior high, as well we're here tonight to talk about the transition to adulthood. So you may already be an adult or supporting an adult with autism. So it's important to remember that this transition is not just one moment in time, but it's an ongoing process. So transition planning is the process that uncovers and develops, as well as documents the skills and challenges, goals, and tasks that will be important to you and your family member as you move from school to adulthood. So transition planning, we've had this in school, but it may look like making lists and checking them twice, or maybe a long, ongoing, evolving book or thought process in your head, or kit of tools that you and your support network have created. However you choose to do this, the transition process, it requires planning and preparation. So we want to make sure that the planning process is person-centered. So that means that the person is at the center of all the decision making. So we recognize that the future can seem uncertain for a young adult with autism. It also may be hard for you as the adult or caregiver to see your child out in the world, or wondering what they'll do when they're done school. So we'll need to develop new expectations and activities, supports, and services for a growing adult. So throughout this process of planning, we want you to use the process itself in order to explore what really matters and what the heart of it is. So the process will look different for everyone, based on the person, their supports, their strengths, their abilities. And just remember that all roads do not lead to the same path, and that path is going to be different for each individual and family. So we say that age 14 is a time that everyone can start thinking about this, and not everyone will have the capacity to do this. But just even thinking about life after high school will be a value in the end. So as I've said, the process is a person-centered transition process. So the person's involved They have their own voice and they have their own choice. And you kind of identify supports along the way. So in that next point about gathering information, this is where we want to start thinking about how we'll start to have these conversations around planning. This could mean how you as an advocate want to start having these conversations with your friends or in your family, or how you want to start having a conversation with your child or the person you're supporting. So this, you can start talking about your values, what's important for you and your family member, and how essentially you want to spend your time in adulthood. So once we determine a person's values and strengths and dreams, we can start to think a little bit more practically about like what's next and what we need to consider. So these areas we think of include housing, life skills, employment, or volunteering, recreation, community involvement, and social connections. So what Anna is going to be doing is actually going through those areas and talking about the different options and opportunities within those. But I wanted just to remind everyone the importance of knowing the values and knowing the strengths and knowing what to consider before we start talking about what options may work for you and your family. So there are many ways to think of planning. As I said, it might be lists, it might be binders, it might just be all in your head, regardless of how you want to do it. There are some resources out there to start these planning conversations. So the first one that I'll include at the end of the presentation is Life Journey Through Autism. So that's a guide for transition to adulthood. And it was by the Organization for Autism Research. So this tool consists of a series of like good practical questions for the person to ask themselves. And also just to start to identify like what goals they want to work on. It also goes over some communication support and advocacy skills that you or the person you're supporting may need in order to be active in the process. The other tool that I've listed here is PATH and MAPS. So those are person-centered planning, goal-setting tools that are used to map out a vision of a desirable future. This is done in two different ways, a PATH or a MAP. There's lots of different acronyms, but making action plans is the MAPS, and a PATH, I think, a planning alternative tomorrows with hope. So as Leah had mentioned, Autism Nova Scotia has recently started a person-directed planning program. So if you are living in the central and western regions of Nova Scotia, so that's the Valley, Southwest, and the South Shore, and HRM, this program is available to adults who are over the age of 19. So we recognize that there are people here that aren't of that age yet. But if you are over the age of 19 and you're currently not being supported in residential or employment supports through community service, I encourage you to reach out to us and talk about some opportunities that you may have to be involved in that program. So there are lots of planning tools, not just these two, whatever works for you. As I said, we'll put some more in our resource toolkit at the end, but it just depends on what's going to work for you. The whole tool might work for you, or just parts of different ones. Regardless, it's all about providing choices, choices for planning and choices for decision making. And we just want to make sure we hear all our voices. So this slide is just to go over and to notice and recognize that there are lots of questions that we may have, that you may have, and it's okay. Ask all the questions. There are questions. These are questions that many families, autistic folks, parents, siblings, we all consider. And really, at the end of the day, why we're asking these questions is because we all want our family member to have a good life, or we want ourselves, as if you're a self-advocate, to have a good life. So that's why we're all here today, listening to Anna and I talk. This is important to us. It's important to you. And at the end of the day, as I said, we all want to support people into having a good life and to having a quality of life that is desirable. So this slide's just to go over. When I say quality of life, it's kind of a buzzword these days, but it's very important. So quality of life is an individual's perception of their position in life. So this is all in the context of what culture you are in or your value systems. It's also in relation to your goals, expectations, and your concerns. So when considering the options and the opportunities that Anna and I are going to talk about further in the presentation, start to look a little closely at the quality of life and what quality of life you or the person you're supporting will have within those. So physical well-being, interpersonal relationships, rights, self-determination. So that's when I talk about voice and choice, social inclusion, personal development, all of those things. So these indicators will really be able to determine if your goals have been met. I'm going to pass the mic over to Anna, and Anna's going to go over some of the pillars that I was talking about, life skills and education, housing, those kind of things. And these are the things that we may choose to focus our goals around as we transition to adulthood.
Thanks, Rachel. So we're going to touch on transitioning, planning, and skills. And Rachel has mentioned, I guess, the 8 areas in a nutshell that we will be talking about this evening. It may be helpful to start a transition binder or folder, or just set aside to keep track of any information or resources that you may come across or you may need in the future. There is several resources that we'll share at the end. One of my favorites is there's a great document on connectability.ca, and that document is Steps to Independence. That can be completed by the person or by the person's, by a person in the person's network, like a friend or a family, a teacher, that sort of thing. We'll share that. So when we talk about life skills, what are life skills? Life skills are referred to as independent living skills or daily living skills. Teaching them early is key, and building upon them in the future when you start it early, it makes that foundation. Basic life skills can include self-care activities, cooking, money management, shopping, room organization, transportation, those sorts of things. For people with autism, learning life skills is essential to increase their independence, and whether that's at home or in school or in the community. When it comes to life skills, knowing a person's strengths and weaknesses, what their dislikes and likes are, special interests, dreams, goals, those sorts of things. And teaching these skills daily, setting goals, even if it is writing it down on paper, making a list. That way you'll know what areas you'll need to focus on and can help clarify any goals that you may want to make in the future. So in everyday life, the development of life skills are crucial. So when it comes to life skills, again, just extending on that, introducing skills early, as said, it's key, and building upon those skills will allow the person to have an increase in self-esteem and lead to a more happiness in all areas of life in general. It could be as simple as brushing your teeth, or, you know, making a recipe. Simple and visuals checklists are very beneficial, as folks with autism are very much of a visual learner. Also, people with autism benefit from clear hands-on instructions, and life skills should occur in the natural environment where the skill is being taught. Life skills should be taught in natural environments where the skills being taught relates directly to the environment. For example, cooking skills in a kitchen, or laundry skills in a laundry room. So when we think about medical and health, what that looks like, the transition from pediatrics to adult care, what changes will occur, and do you know what happens? Have you given any thought to how that affects things? Does it mean a change in doctor or location? Does the individual know what medications they're on, if any, and why? And asking questions of, you know, knowing when to see a doctor and how to make that happen, for example, for making an appointment. So at some point in life, there will be that transition to adult care. So being mindful of what that looks like is a great way to prepare. I know here locally, the IWK has been working with families within their transition stage and have developed documents on their website. It's a great resource for family members and the individual. There's fact sheets such as the difference in care and specifically pertaining to parents and for the young person. So when we think of financial issues or budgeting, those sorts of things, I can't stress enough the importance of having an ID. It may not be something that we think of, you know, having a driver's license and that ID picture there. Just because the person doesn't have a license doesn't mean that they cannot get an ID card. It's actually recommended that they do. Access Nova Scotia provides this, and the application can be found at Motor Registration. And the card is valid for every 5 years. Again, the social insurance number, even though the person may not have an income, every person should have a SIM card in order to work or to receive any government benefits and services. You'll need a SIM card. So that application can be made online at the government website at www.canada.ca. In regards to the disability tax credit, that is another avenue that can be explored. This is a credit that basically gives you a tax break. It can reduce the amount of taxes that the individual may have to pay in. And being eligible for a disability tax credit also opens up doors to other federal and provincial programs. So we're going to talk about the T2201 form, and this is the form that you need for the disability tax credit. The form can be found on the Government Canada website. It is a form that does need to be filled out by a medical practitioner. And when you make the appointment to connect with the medical practitioner, just keeping in mind that the practitioner is aware of how autism affects the daily life of the individual, and copy your records when you send it in. And sometimes people do get denied, but that's okay. And always remember that if you don't apply, you never know if you absolutely 100% doesn't get the chance to have that benefit. So there's no harm in printing that off and getting that filled out and sending that in the mail. We're going to talk a little bit about Department of Community Services. Along with supports and programs, Department of Community Services, I can't stress the importance of getting connected with a care coordinator. There's many options with DCS. When the person is 19 years of age, they can possibly qualify for income assistance. Regardless, it's a huge resource, and even if you have been denied in the past, it does happen. But if your circumstances change, always reapply and get connected. So I guess at the end of the day, one of the takeaways is to get connected. Eventually, at some point, you know, the programs that are offered in DCS can be possibly obtained throughout the lifespan. So keeping with DCS, they have a disability support program that many may be aware of. This program is huge in regards of the supports that it can give you. It's a voluntary program, and these programs support folks in various stages of life. They're there to increase the development and independence of the individual. There's also service request lists and a future planning registry that you can inquire about. The service request list is for those who need a service now or soon, within 2 years. And the future planning registry is for those who need a service in the future in 2 years or more. The FLEX program, along with the disability support program, there's 3 different types of funding. There's the foundation allowance, the intermediate funding, and the enhanced funding. This is for an individual that is 19 years of age or older, and it's for the participant who may be living at home or independently with the support from family or friends that support in a network. The foundation allowance allows up to $500 per month with no receipts. The intermediate funding, that provides up to $2,200 per month, and receipts are required. And again, the enhanced funding, which is for higher needs, a participant can receive up to $3,800 per month, and receipts are certainly required for that. You can find more about those policies on the government website of novascotia.ca, but it's worth exploring. Housing, yeah, this is a huge one. Moving out of the family home, it could be the biggest decision ever. You know, whether you're a parent wondering or someone supporting a person, wondering what's next, you know, and housing arrangements and knowing your options. And for the individual that's transitioning, you know, I guess being aware of what's out there. And at the end of the day, like Rachel stated, quality of life is some questions that you may want to ask yourself is, you know, where do you want to live? What type of house do you want to live in? And to make that happen, what type of supports will you need, or do you need supports? Not everybody will be able to move out from a family home, and nor may they want to. But again, exploring your options and getting supports that are available to support whichever decision you make is key. And this is where the flex funding could be utilized and explored. Keeping with DCS, they have a lot of programs. These are some licensed homes for special care. Again, these are just some options to think about that they're there. And the eligibility for the admission in that program for a home for special care is determined by a functional and financial assessment. So that's an option. These care level, there are different levels of care. And again, more information can be found on the website. Some other services that are offered through Department of Community Services is the Independent Living Support Program and the Alternative Family Support Program. And again, you know, just exploring what options that you have. And at the end of the day, it's, you know, the quality of life, where you want to live, and what do you need to do to make that happen. So for education, as a parent, we may ask ourselves, you know, post-secondary education, is that an option? How will that look? What do I have to do? Is there anything that I need to do as a parent or a caregiver to make that happen? But just, we wanted to share with you that there is options out there. And thinking again about the person-centered approach, I mean, having the thoughts and desires of the person that's wanting the post-secondary education and considering the interest in building upon that. Within each school now post-secondary, there is accessibility officers that I would encourage you to connect with if you are a person on the autism spectrum and currently in post-secondary. There's accessibility officers there, and they can help identify any barriers that affects learning, and they can help you put some strategies in place. There's also many grants and funding opportunities for equipment, for example, for assistive technology if needed. So just keeping that in mind and being aware of how you were supported in school, or sharing how the individual was supported in a public school system. It helps the person be aware of what supports was needed, and so that they can advocate for themselves and for any accommodations that may be needed in the post-secondary setting. Along with education, we just wanted to share that Autism Nova Scotia currently has a PASS program, and this PASS program provides individual one-to-one support to students with autism in a non-academic way, and they help students successfully transition in and out of their post-secondary journey. If you are a grade 12 student, or you have someone that is in grade 12 and are thinking about the next steps of college or university, you can certainly apply and register for this program. And if you're already a post-secondary student, you can certainly apply as well. So these services are funded, but you can inquire more to see what other options can be taken if you're not accepted for funding. So from there, I'm gonna pass it back over to Rachel, and she'll talk about some more opportunities in the employment field.
Anna. So when we think about employment, employment is going to look very different for everyone. And we just want to encourage people to think how they want to spend their days, and to make sure that whatever they're doing, they're spending those days meaningfully, whatever choice that may be. So these employment opportunities at Autism Nova Scotia are employment support programs, excuse me. There's the Autism Job Seekers Database. So that is something that if you are a person looking for a job, you are an autistic person, they help connect you with paid employment opportunities. There's also the Autism Works Launchpad that is unfortunately only offered in Halifax at the moment, but that's a program that's designed to teach folks the skills they need to enter the workplace, and also provide them with real life work experience that they'll need for meaningful employment. Career Quest, that's a supportive job search as well. And that's actually available to people over the people 16 and up. So the other programs are mainly for 18 and up, but Career Quest will support folks that are 16. And they're given tools and accommodations to build the skills that they need as they start looking for a job and heading into job searching. Employment Works, that's offered in a few different places around the province. Right now it's virtual, and it's an employment program for adults with autism who are out of high school. And then we also have, which I think is a really great initiative, Ready, Willing, and Able. So RWA, actually, they educate employers on the benefits of employing people with autism, and helping businesses connect and develop the labor supply pipeline to diversify their workforces. So it's not a direct person support, but it just gives you an idea of the work that's going on behind the scenes in order for folks with autism to have that meaningful employment if that matches their support needs. There also are other employment and work program considerations. So in high school, there are co-op programs as well as O2 programs, so options and opportunity programs. And those are for high school students, and they help kind of prepare them for a transition from high school to post-secondary. I'm really focusing on like that chosen career path. And it encourages a new approach to learning. The co-op is more of a volunteering, in like a cooperative education where people are actually like in the community and in the workplace settings themselves. Volunteering, of course, is always a great way to gain skills and to build upon those skills. So it also gives folks the knowledge of different employment sectors and opportunities to see what they like and what they don't like. And it also helps connect them with the community. The ones on the right, the work programs, they are like Directions NS, Prescott, Building Futures, and those, like Directions NS is a nonprofit that represents a lot of agencies across Nova Scotia. So those agencies offer services like from pre-vocational programs to community employment. And then the Flower Cart, I don't know, actually, I say the Flower Cart comes to mind, but I don't know if they're a member of Directions NS. Then we have Prescott Group in Halifax, as well as Building Futures and their social enterprises. So if you're wondering what the word social enterprise is, social enterprises are businesses owned by nonprofit organizations. So they directly are involved in the production and selling of goods and services. So they have specific social objectives, and they employ people who may have barriers to typical work environments. And there is some sort of social impact involved in those programs. Another area folks may want to set some goals around is rec and leisure. And recreation and leisure go far beyond the activities themselves. So we want to start to look at the opportunities that are available in their local area, and acknowledging that the activities and interests that you or the person in your family may change as they transition into adulthood. They may not have those same opportunities that they may have had in school or other settings. So when you start to consider what's important, and also what would I like to do, and kind of do the things I want to do align with the activities that I'm in. So do I want to meet new people, or do I want to be in doing an individual activity, things like that. So in all of our chapters at Autism Nova Scotia, we do offer some social and inclusive programming. Some of the chapters offer like leisure programming and social groups. So if you are looking for opportunities and to explore what's available to you, I would really recommend reaching out to your chapter coordinators. They also have an extensive list of like the resources for these things in their own communities, and great resource libraries. And the last one I want to talk about is around social connections. And those are the relationships that we have with the people around us. It's an experience of feeling close and connected to others. And they really form the basis of interpersonal relationships. So just as social isolation can cause health problems, as we all know, being socially connected can have enormous positive effects on mental health and physical health. And as we transition into adulthood, we realize that the people that we've been used to spending our time with in high school or in junior high, we no longer have those people around us all the time. So thinking of ways to maintain and bridge those connections as we transition through adulthood is really important. So as I said, Autism Nova Scotia offers like autism specific social and inclusive programming within each chapter. We actually just adapted our social virtual club that runs every week provincially. We actually have people that tune in from New Brunswick and PEI, and you can really be wherever you want to in the world and join. And it brings together people with autism from all around the province. And that's been a really positive thing that's come out of COVID, and since all of the restrictions have been in place, and it's a way to maintain their social connections and to connect with others. So another extremely important thing within social connections are relationships and sexuality. So as we age, relationships change, and adults start to seek romantic and sexual relationships, and want more opportunities just to meet and date people and learn more about themselves in the process. So we want to make sure that those relationships are healthy, and that we understand our own sexuality, and most importantly, that we're given the choice of what we want to do and what we don't want to do. So Autism Nova Scotia has a healthy relationship, sexuality, and autism program that's now running online. It's provincially, but it's actually, as I said, it's run in New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland as well. And it's a comprehensive sexuality education program for autistic adults who are over the age of 19. So we do have a lot of people that are under the age of 19 that contact about interest in this program, because it's an awesome program, and we understand why, unfortunately, we're only able to run it for people over the age of 19 at this moment. So the program supports adults with higher levels of independence by introducing concepts of sexuality and social skills through an interactive, sex positive, inclusive sexuality education. So if you aren't 19, and you're looking for ways to have these conversations with others or with the person you're supporting, start to open that dialogue around relationships and sexuality, as oftentimes autistic people do not have the opportunity to have those conversations, and some of the times aren't able to be in those inclusive programs that are offered in school. So the takeaway from this is start talking about sexuality and relationships. It's very important, especially as we transition into adulthood. So this slide, although it doesn't relate to social, it does relate to social connectedness, but it's actually a tool that's used in person directed planning. And circles, it's called Circles of Support. And Circles of Support is a way to identify like who's in your circle and what supports you currently have around you in terms of people. So I'd encourage you and your family to start, when you start looking at the planning process, to kind of sit down with this tool and map it out a little bit, just to see who's in your circle, and to start identifying those people who you might be able to call on for certain things. Those people also are going to be there to support the person that's in the center of the planning process, and help I start identifying those strengths and the preferences and the likes and the dislikes that I mentioned at the beginning of our presentation. So this will be included with a little bit more detail of how to use the tool in our resource kit. So as we've been talking about a lot of options and opportunities for specific like person-directed planning, this slide is pretty caregiver specific, and the information that's on it is important to all of us. I know we all want to make sure that our children and the people in our lives are safe and secure when we may not be able to be there to support them. So wills and trusts, making sure you do have a will, and if setting up a trust is something, an option for you, to do that as well. So all of those services would be done through a lawyer or law service. And this could be a time where you start to consider who's in your circle and to start bringing those people in to the planning process. They are difficult conversations, and you may have to start to have them, but they're very important to have. The Adult Capacity and Decision-Making Act is a law that came into play in 2017. So this was formerly the Incompetent Persons Act, I believe, and guardianship. So this is a new law for adults who can make some decisions for themselves, but not all of them. And it allows another person to make those important decisions for them. So maybe a person can make some important medical decisions for themselves. However, they need support when making financial decisions. So it recognizes that some people have the capacity in those areas, and some people do not. And it really just sees the person as a whole. The RDSP, I'll include a little bit more information in that at the end of the presentation. Registered Disability Savings Plan is something to consider. I can't speak too much about that at the moment, but I did attach a great resource for you to start looking into that a little further. With all of these things, like the wills and the trusts, and the Adult Capacity and Decision-Making Act, those are all like legal services. So just to give you the heads up, I guess, that there are financial considerations that will be taken into account when making those decisions and seeing if that's an option for yourself and your family. So Anna and I have gone through a lot of different options and a lot of different things tonight. So we decided to create a little checklist of things to consider. And some of you have been thinking about this information for a while, while others it might be brand new depending on what stage you're at. So just making lists, I'm a list maker, so this was helpful to me and Anna. So it's just good when you're even looking at these things to reach out to those other people that are in your circle or your family members, or start having these conversations with other people. And most importantly, just to be easy on yourself. As Leah had said in the beginning, the path is never the same for every person. And just remember that, to remember to use this process to explore what really matters, and to listen deeply to the person, and make sure your values and your strengths and all of those things are coming out in whatever goals you're choosing for the future. So I can't stress this enough, that like if you have any questions or you're looking for more resources, our chapter coordinators are awesome, and they have lots of good information and can navigate you to great resources and options and opportunities in your local area. These are the resources that we used tonight for our presentation, but also that we'll be sharing with you afterwards. So, oh, Anna, you're on mute.
Rachel and I want to thank you for joining us. It's been fun putting this presentation together as a parent myself. You know, the information and the thing to take away is make those connections and seek out your options. So we thank you. We know that there's been some family members, some individuals, some professionals joining us tonight. So we hope this has been helpful, and feel free to reach out and reconnect at any time.
Thank you so much, Anna and Rachel, for being our presenters tonight. I was taking a few notes myself, and one of the nuggets that you passed on was voice and choice. I thought that was such a great way to kind of put a pin in things, is that, you know, ultimately the goal is to empower the individual with autism to have voice and choice as they plan their future. And the questions for self-reflection were great. I'm a list person too, so love the idea of having a list. And again, the focus on person-centered approach to this, you know, really looking for strength-based approaches and considering what's important to the person who the planning is happening to when looking for opportunities for the future. So thank you both so much for that. I'm going to be checking out the connectability.ca website as well in the very near future. And I was reminded during the presentation about how the best time to plant a tree is, you know, 25 years ago, they say. So the best time to start planning, no matter what age and stage your child or you as a person with autism are, is right away, right? There's the sooner the better. So thank you both again. We do have some questions that have come up in our chat, and I'm going to invite my fellow autism support coordinators to turn on their cameras and walk us through some of those questions. And I think we've agreed that we'll all support in the answer providing section of this tonight. Awesome. So I'm going to call on Jill to take the first question and present that to our audience tonight.
Sure. So the first question, I apologize for my voice ahead of time. There is someone specifically looking for cooking classes for their 16-year-old and the funding that goes with it. So me being in the HRM area, we do actually have a partnership with Sobeys in Clayton Park. And we actually ran a few cooking classes. Chef Scott has been on board with that, along with myself. So we've actually ran 2 or 3 classes pre-COVID, and we're hoping to run another cohort. It was hopefully in the fall. Right now, there's nothing happening. Hopefully, we will have a winter session. With that being said, I'm not aware of any other cooking classes per se within the HRM area, and I don't know if there's anything outside of HRM. So I'm going to leave that up to the other folks to answer.
I would suggest that people check with their local family resource center or other nonprofits in the area that may provide some type of basic shelf cooking program. I myself have a keen interest in this topic, and looking at ways that we can perhaps do a virtual cooking program and perhaps develop some curriculum for Autism Nova Scotia, and looking for some grants to make that accessible to participants as well. So stay tuned, I think, on that one.
And just to add to that, the Club Inclusion here in the HRM area, they're a great place, and they do actually offer, I don't know if it's cooking classes, but skills where you can go for a day. They have a drop-in center, but they have multiple programs. They're really, it's worth checking them out. They have a lot of different things that happen. They have choir, but in regards to cooking, there is some cooking opportunities there at the Club Inclusion as well, I know.
And I'll just speak to that for just a second too. They have a cooking club, so they might do sort of a 6-week session on going shopping, and everybody sort of designs a meal together. It's quite nice. The Club Inclusion is a cross disabilities group that meets in the Halifax area. So there may be lots of ideas out in community. I think it is a good idea maybe to touch base with your local autism coordinators and see what might be out there that they know about. And as Leah said, there's certainly a lot of interest. So yes, staying tuned. I think that's an important thing as well. Keep in touch with us.
Terrific. So next question, Willa, if you could.
I think Willa may have, there was lots of wind going on up in,
okay.
And I think maybe she had to go. Or
technology.
I don't see her there.
Okay, terrific. We'll move on then. Annette, can you offer forth the next question to us?
Sure, there's no wind down this way. Okay. So this question actually comes from the South Shore, just looking to see who they can reach out to regarding more information on the topic, but in particular, independent living and financial support. They have 2 children on the spectrum. So I'm going to pass that to Rachel.
You can reach out to me by email or by phone, and we can have a conversation about that. There are lots of options, and things and just considerations that we should be aware of when getting started with that process. So yeah, connect with me. I'm the Autism Support Coordinator in the South Shore. We'll also, in that resource that we'll send out after the presentation, we've documented like all the links and stuff if you want some like printed information as well.
Great. Any other thoughts on independent living? Ideas, suggestions broadly across the province?
I will mention, Anna brought up the service request list and the, what was the other one, Anna?
It's the future registry planning.
Future registry. So the future registry planning, when you're thinking about community services programs or independent living, you can be put on that service list through community service. It's a central intake, I believe. And if you are looking for the service over 2 years, you'll be put on the future registry. But a tip is that if you reach that 2 years and you're ready to move to the next list, is you have to make the contact yourself to say you're ready to move to the service request list and be off of the future planning list. So.
Great. So next question, Jill.
Sure. So this one, I actually have the Q&A up now. We had a question, is Career Quest offered outside of HRM? That's a great question. I don't know. Because I work in HRM. It's offered through an HRM. I don't know if you guys offer Career Quest. Leah, Rachel.
Yeah. It is currently, it's offered in the HRM. It's one of those programs that we, with most of our employment programs, we are looking to see them expand beyond HRM. So that is in the works, but at this point in time, Career Quest is only in the HRM. I know things are happening. I know things will be coming. And we have successfully moved our Employment Works program out to a few other regions. They're now in Annapolis Valley and in the Truro area and in Pictou. So we're starting to make those changes. So we will see it happen, but it isn't there yet. But thank you for that question. It's really good. And we take that back. We'll take that back to Employment Works, and we'll take that back to our executive director as well, so they know that the questions are coming and people really want it.
Good point.
Definitely. Great. Annette, back to you. Is there a fourth question?
Yeah, there's another one. So any suggestions for helping the person with ASD with anxiety transition to adulthood and not be overwhelmed?
That's an excellent question. Again, I think everyone is so different on the spectrum, and we understand that there's so many differences related to sensory stressors, communication challenges. Again, I think it's building those foundational skills, those life skills and those communication skills very early as you can, so that the person has the opportunity to maybe work on dealing with change a bit of it more successfully, I guess. Change is one of those inevitable things that happens to us all. And there's a few programs during the teenage years that I believe are available to anyone. And I believe a few extend into adulthood. So there's a program called The Strongest Families, and they offer support related to anxiety. They have a program called Defeat Anxiety, which again is just skill building around the tools that you need to have with you so that you can either prevent or manage anxiety as it happens. So I know that that's one resource. Private counseling would be an option perhaps as well for anyone who wishes to seek that for anxiety. And certainly the coordinator in your area could provide a list of counselors or clinicians who not only have an anxiety background, but also an autism background. Any others wish to provide a response to that question?
Yeah, and Leah, I think to your point too is the preparedness of everything. You know, the sooner you can prepare and, you know, read through all the material, the better it is. And I do want to say there are private psychologists out there that you can certainly reach out to for counseling services as well. And as well as the IWK. I know that they actually, through the developmental clinic, they offer that whole transition. And I know Anna had touched on it as well, around that whole binder that they can provide to individuals. So I think that really helps as well, if anybody has any suggestions.
Any other ideas for that one? Next question then.
Maybe that's Annette.
We have another one, Jill.
Sure.
Back to Jill.
Oh, Jill.
Yes. Someone wants to know how to help an individual figure out what career they want to do. That's a great question.
That's a great question as well.
We do, I know within HRM, we do have a lot of employment specialists that you can certainly connect with. We actually have a database as well. If you would prefer to meet with an employment specialist, we can certainly help set that up. As a family coordinator, I can certainly help connect you. Yeah, so I think reaching out, there's a lot of different programs they offer. They can go over anything in great detail, any kind of questions that you may have.
And if this person is still within the age of being in high school, I would suggest following up with your guidance counselor or family navigator or someone like that.
Schools Plus.
Yeah, Schools Plus folks who I think that's kind of their role as well. They perhaps could help with the anxiety thing as well too, as per the previous question. But yeah, I think there's ways to probably there's even online quizzes now that ask you a series of questions and then give you, based on your interests again, and give you ideas about possible career choices that would be a good fit based on your skills, your interests, and all of those types of things.
And just to add to that, Leah, you know, if the individual is in high school right now, chatting with teachers, getting connected with what's available within the high school. I know that there is a co-op program and an O2 program that students can take part in exploring different career avenues and even get some on-the-job experience and to kind of decide on which path they want to take. So it may be just connecting with your school and see what they offer and have some conversations started. Yeah.
Yeah, and someone who is maybe considering going to NSCC, there's some test drives. They will do some test drives of different programs that you can go and have a bit of an experience for a day at the college. So that's another thing that people might want to take a look into. Check out your local NSCC.
Great. Annette, is there more questions on the list?
There's a comment, so I will read that. Just one, hoping these programs will also come to Cape Breton, as we have lots of kids aging out on the spectrum and would be awesome and greatly needed and appreciated. So I know we hear that a lot, but that's the best thing to do is let us know, because if we don't know what's happening in the communities, then we can't help. So now that we know, and we're hearing that in other communities too, then we can see what we can bring to those communities. So yeah, I agree. We always hear there's a lot happening in HRM just based on population and accessibility, but definitely bringing these programs into the rural communities as well. So
yeah, we're working.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Annette. Yeah, and there is that recognition that was one of our motivators, I think, for planning this information session tonight, is knowing that there's a lot of resources that exist up until high school graduation, and then you know, after that, you're kind of on your own to figure out how to navigate the world and the greater community. So, you know, take advantage of the resources up until high school graduation, we would recommend. And then from that point on, you know, we're here as a resource to help folks as well, which is really, really an important thing. So, one last chance for questions. If anyone has one, the time to put it in the Q&A box or the chat is now. Again, I just want to say a huge thank you to Anna and Rachel for agreeing to present to this group tonight. We really, again, I think you provided a lot of nuggets of wisdom. And I really appreciate all of the time you took to plan this and put it together. It was very much appreciated. So no other questions. I will say good night to everyone and conclude the seminar. Again, please do feel free to reach out to your local autism support coordinator in your local chapter. If you have any questions about how to reach someone, you can go to the Autism Nova Scotia website. And as I said, we're here just to kind of help you navigate with whatever your unique and individual needs are. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thanks, everyone.
Yes, and maybe I'm just going to add, Lee, if you don't mind, we will send out the resources that we've spoken of. Those will be emailed out to you. If you know of someone who wanted to come tonight and wasn't able to, it has been recorded, and we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel through Autism Nova Scotia. I anticipate it will be there by Tuesday. Okay, I won't, before just a long weekend, I'm not going to make a promise for tomorrow, but it should be up for Tuesday. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
And just another comment on this, around education sessions.
Oh, yes.
That we'll be having. So these education sessions are something that the group of us and a few others have been involved in creating. So we're hoping every 2 months to have an education session, and those topics will be based on feedback that we've received from each of our chapters around the province. So from Yarmouth to Cape Breton, and kind of collated all those. And so, yeah, the next one is in December.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. As you can all see, this is a team effort.
Very much so. That's why we're all here.
We are better together. So thanks so much, everyone. Good night. Stay safe. Enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.